Yeah, it's so interesting you talk about personal growth seminars is the fact that people who've never been don't get it and people who have been do. And it's
Right.
kind of like, people go, why do you spend, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on personal growth? It's like because what you just if you it's almost like you can't explain it. It's almost like you have to say, look, I will buy you a ticket to show up there and you have
Right.
to experience it for yourself, and then they either get it or they either get it or they don't. And the ones who get
Right.
it, are, they realize what a magical experience it can be. And the ones that don't, look at you like you're back, like you're,
Yeah, I saw what you've
batshit
done with
crazy.
that.
That's
Right. There you
you
go.
know, it's, I was starting to think now the FCC can't come down on me. So yeah, it's, batshit crazy.
Right.
So you went to this personal growth seminar, and that kind of really started accelerating you into your aftermath period.
Yeah.
Tell us a
All
little
that
bit.
it's been well over 2 years. What's like 2 years? It's been like a journey. At that, I think the biggest highlight for me in that first experience was sitting across from somebody who I looked upon as being like this tough guy, really got it together. He's a big muscle bound guy, successful in business. He had this really nice leather jacket on. He drove a Porsche. I thought everything I wanted, he was modeling. And then I discovered how much he was hollow, and we had the same experiences of history. It literally brought me to tears. That was the first time I think I woke in my adult life where I actually cried out of awareness and shifting. And it was a starting point for me of reopening my heart to understanding life and people, because it brought me closer to another man, which is very, I'm a straight guy. It's like hugging other men, loving other men. No, I can't do that. That was the rule I grew up with. But
Yeah.
to open up to have this experience, it really changed my perception, but two, my own heart, because it shifted me into a place of compassion for myself and for other people. That was the beginning of a long journey that I've been on ever since.
Yeah, that's so amazing, and that is one of the other things that people just. It's funny, 'cause just to take a quick digression. It's why I'm so glad that professional athletes are now hugging each other all the time, because what people don't realize is you can be like you and I, a straight guy, and you can still have love for somebody
Hmm.
else in a much different way, at a much, different level. And
Right.
it's so awesome, because what people don't realize is that sometimes the people, it's kind of like the old story about bullying. Sometimes the people who are toughest on the outside are the most hollow on the inside, and are just
Hmm.
begging for somebody to, to realize that, and to go ahead and change.
Right.
So talk to us more about the aftermath, and now that you've got this, as you start to go through this realization, how did it change? How did it change your
Wow.
relationships, and what kind of journey was it in the aftermath?
Well, the good news and the bad news, that there was two parts of this. The good news is that I found a place where I thrived, because it really taught me more about life skills, how to be more fully me. And it wasn't so much of outside success; it was about inside alignment and really feeling more like grounded in who I was. And it started opening up my awareness to a lot of things, and it's led me to a very different place in my own life. Obviously, in my work I do, but also it. One of the challenges about being involved in the personal growth industry is that we tend to look through the lens that if somebody hasn't done it, we can't relate to them.
Uh,
It's been a challenge, and I'm much different now. But at the beginning, it's kind of the elitist experience where you haven't done the seminar. You should come do the seminar because I've done it and you haven't. And it was such an ego trip. It was ridiculous. And even though I was doing the awareness stuff, I was totally oblivious to what I wasn't doing with other people. But as the growth progressed, what I found was I was attracted to people, and particularly to women, who had also done this work, because we had a common language, and
yeah.
common ground is always good for a relationship. And so my dating life improved to a degree, but there was still stuff I had no clue about. And we'll talk about in the second half about the tools that I now teach that really gave me the understanding of why I kept messing up my relationships even after that point. I was doing much better in my relationships. I have some dear friends who look back on past relationships where she and these different women, we're very close friends now, but obviously the relationship didn't work for us romantically. But the thing was, I was much more able to love, because first of all, after doing this work, my heart was so much more open to receive and give love, which is probably the biggest tools.
Yeah.
I was looking for love from all the wrong places, like head, groin, everything else, not from the heart, and it messed up a lot of my choices. And so progressively, I was getting to better relationships, but there was definitely some repeated patterns and cycles that kept coming over the years. That's what really became the tools that I've learned to work with to change those, because that's the trap we fall into. We find a different person, but the same thing is happening again and again. Just different face, same pattern.
Yeah, exactly, and it's so right. I mean, you said so. There are so many powerful things you just said. One of them is that when you start to talk the same language as somebody,
Yeah.
I often say it's funny because part of the stuff. I'm part of a number of different teams. I guess that's the best way to put it. And the
Hmm.
interesting thing is that other than one very prominent guy, I think everybody I know in the personal growth industry, even the most popular and prominent people, have been divorced at least once. And if you talk to them, they came into they had their pre-personal growth industry life where they
Hmm.
probably got married and kind of had a vision.
Yeah.
They then got into the industry and then they started growing apart from their significant
Yes.
other because they weren't a part of it and they stopped understanding the language, so to speak. But
Right.
then once they realized that that wasn't the right person for them and they got through their own turnaround, they realized that because of the way things happened, there was also a boatload of women sitting in the audience that had gone through the same thing, and
Right.
now all of a sudden you have two people who connected at a much different level and at least speak a common language.
Hmm.
And I know we're going to talk about this in the second half, but did you find, and the reason I tell that story is I want to ask you this question. When you started speaking that common language with people, I know it didn't all work out, but did you find the
Right.
relationships worked out better and it allowed you to figure other things out where relationships weren't working so well versus just the initial, batting your heads because you weren't speaking the same language?
Absolutely, and it's funny because you mentioned that about the people coming into the seminars or into the trainings and then breaking up because they weren't aligned. In my book, I actually have one chapter that talks about exactly that point because I learned the hard way and the right way that I call it the rubber band idea of relationships. Because when people do things like personal growth or a new spiritual path or something happens in their lives where they change a lot, if one of the partners changes, it puts tension on the relationship with the other person, and they get pushed apart or pulled apart. One of three things happens, and that second person either is going to jump in the same boat and learn from what they're learning, or something parallel so they can get closer together, or it's going to break in a simplistic term. And that's what happened. A lot of people I knew did that, where they came in as married couples and broke up, or they came in single and got married who worked because they met somebody in the event. The challenge
Yeah.
also is, and I'll say this clearly because I've done a lot of seminars and teachings over the years, is the seminar will not make you special. It doesn't fix you so you can find a partner in that seminar because you're now in a myopic environment, which is a dangerous place to play because you're loving everybody who's in that room. So suddenly you're dating. I mean, this is from the guy's point of view because there's guys in one of my teachers' languages, we're the hunters. So we're always looking for what's next. And so dating is a hunting practice, like we're sorting and finding the right one. Well, in a seminar room, we're probably scanning the room going, okay, which one's the cutest? Sorry, I'm adding all the guys on this one because it's something I know I did myself.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because as we get towards the end of this hero's journey, I'll interject a little bit of my own and just say part of the reason this resonates with me so much is because I was in corporate America before. I started off life as an entertainer, got into corporate America, and then now have been doing this and back to doing what my passion is,
Hmm.
and which is public speaking, teaching people, motivating people, and doing videos like this, doing television shows, and that sort of thing. About four and a half years ago, I dove back into the personal growth industry headlong, and I was married at the time. And over time, our marriage just did one of these
Right.
because while my ex-wife was a learner, it wasn't in the same way, and
Hmm.
it gave the appearance that I had changed. And it's interesting to go back and look at it. And it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like I said, I guess the best thing I can say without bullet, because I'm trying to. For the folks who know me right now, they know I'm trying to shut down only because I could talk for 3 hours on this. So, and it's not. This isn't about me. This is about Barry. So
I appreciate that.
all I can say is I so much identify with this, and I'm so
Hmm.
happy that we have you on today because in the second part we're going to get to foggy glasses, iceberg, and a broken mirror.
Right.
There's definitely some things it already sounds like I wish I would have had, maybe even, sooner, so to speak,
Oh.
than today. So I'm looking forward to getting there. Before we wrap this segment up about the
Hmm.
hero's journey, I just want to give you 1 second. Is there any big learning or anything you wanna say that if you had one thing to say from your hero's journey, either the beginning, the turning point, or the aftermath, what would be the first thing or the biggest thing that comes to your mind, the biggest piece of advice that you could leave people with? You know, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I guess the bottom line is there's always a turnaround. I mean, unless you give up. But the bottom line is, like, just have faith. And that was the biggest thing for me, is that even now I'm having as much faith as I did because, sorry, my Skype does these weird things.
Gotta have faith, man.
Bottom line is there is a turning point, and that's the thing I didn't know at the time, and I wish I'd known. It would be much easier to go through the journey knowing that there was going to be something happening that would change the direction, and that's the piece for me, is that I'm grateful I had that.
Yeah, and that is a great place to leave the Hero's Journey segment on. We're going to go ahead and take a very short break. When we come back, you definitely want to stick around, because when we come back, we're going to talk to the Heartbreak Repair Specialist that we've been talking to this whole time, Barry Selby, and we're going to hear about Foggy Glasses and Iceberg and Broken Mirror, 3 keys to stop playing Russian Roulette with romance. We'll be back in about 60 seconds, so if you want to take a quick drink or something like that, go for it, but stick around because we'll be right back.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.